What's going on, everybody? As always, hope everyone's doing well. Hope everyone is enjoying their day, and depending on what time you're watching, morning, afternoon, evening, I hope that you have a successful week, work, weekends, time to relax. I know it's been a minute I've been on here. I've been busy to my other two channels. I've been really working on those. So I just wanted to come back to this channel and try to come up with some material to talk about and to hopefully keep y'all encouraged, enlightened, empowered, and to give you some critical thinking about how can we better ourselves and our communities, our households, and of course our schools, and just hopefully bettering our regions of where we live. For those who is new to Rebuilding Community Trust, welcome. As you see, this channel is active for I would say duty activism and empowerment and education. And I hope that those can get something out of this. Check out all the content I've done so far over the last couple of years. I did remove my Rebuilding Community Trust webpage. It just was just sitting there. I don't think a lot of people looked at it, or if they were looking at it, I wasn't a lot of feedback. So I'm going to, at some point in the near future, reconstruct the page to fit my other YouTube channels and ministry pages, and give hopefully some renewal or enhancement to the page. You can leave comments below if you're interested in commenting what was said or what kind of content is out. But my Rebuilding Community Trust page is no longer active. For those who have been tuning in, as always, thank you. Please continue to support and share the material. Don't forget about my Freedom Fighters channel page. I have my newly ministry, Breaking Barriers Ministry, Guide to Kingdom Relationships and Kingdom Marriage, and also my wife's page on Precious Pearls Ministries. So if y'all interested in that content, you can go ahead and go to that and watch the feeds there. I'm going to talk about something that's important. I'm going to try to highlight a couple of topics. I'm going to do a screenshot of Dr. Umar Johnson's. He did a video on his channel or someone else's channel dealing with children and the Black community, and dealing with the court systems and how Black fathers play a critical role in our children's lives. It was a question he had, a caller called in to him, and they had a little mini discussion about how to deal with his son. He hasn't seen his son in so much time. And it's touching to me because I had a point in my life and recently dealing with some similar situations to where us as Black men in our communities dealing with our children, broken homes, broken relationships. And then we're dealing with the fact that we're trying to be assertive and being proactive in our children's lives. And many scenarios take place, but it becomes very, very difficult. It's causing a lot of tension within ourselves. And also it's a lot of triggers, and it's a lot of effort and work. And it's becoming something to where it seems like it's effortless and thankless. And although I'm not advocating to stop trying to reach out to your kids, but there's a point where you have a breaking point where you're meeting a lot of resistance in trying to get rights and get custody or being able to see your children and be a influence in their lives. And then a lot of times, as Black men, I wouldn't say most cases, but in some cases where they just give up and stop. And they don't want to do it. They don't want to keep going through the court systems, and the mothers are being really difficult and allowing, men to be a part of their kids' lives due to spite, due to bitterness, due to irresponsibility, due to their hurt, many other different things. And in some instances where the men might be justified in not seeing their kids due to their mindsets and not participating, and some Black fathers don't even try. Right. They don't even care to pick up the phone or try to make an attempt to see their kids. But what's going on, and especially in this case, this individual that called in, he has experienced the same issues as a child, and seen as an adult, he's kind of in the same boat. So I want to play some interviews, some clips that I've seen. I'm just going to post it on the screen. You're going to let him go through the conversation, and then we just want to have a talk. We just want to have a discussion and see the understanding of what is the traumatic aspect of men, particularly Black men in this case, where we're trying to be there for our children, but we're dealing with a lot of obstacles and resistance, and we're going to go from there. So I just want to go ahead and give y'all that disclaimer. And hope people get something out of this. I hope people can take this back to our communities and be creative in ways in solving our issues in our community.
I feel like, I've been watching you for a very long time, and everything you say about special ed, the educational system, mental health, when it comes to black youth, black men, I feel like I'm a victim of it. I got an 11-year-old son, and it's like a repetitive thing. Like, it's generational, though, because my mom and my dad really wasn't, effective in my life. I was raised by my grandparents, and my son's mom and grandmother are, very combative with me when it comes to me trying to be a dad, knowing that my dad wasn't in my life. You feel me? So, my grandparents took the advice of the educational system and put me on meds and put me in special ed and do all this other stuff, have me in programs, treatments, and it really didn't do nothing for me. So when I turned 18, I found out the program. So basically my thing right now is I'm just calling because I need advice. I really don't want to sign my rights over for my son, but I tried to be the best dad that I know that I could be at the moment. I need advice, as a black man.
Question. I got a question for you. I got a question for you, and I hate family court. I hate it with a passion because there's nothing worse than black people going right back to the white folks after slavery and asking them to settle disputes between a black man and a black woman over a black child. Family court is nothing but a form of slavery. Now, with that being said, though, if you cannot come to an amicable agreement with your son's mother and grandmother, you may have to put a petition into family court, my brother. So you get shared legal custody. So you guys have to make all medical and educational decisions together. Shared legal, that's one. And number two, shared physical custody to make sure you get to see your son as often as you would like to. Because if it's not working with her,
I know I did that part custody.
So you get
to see him.
Okay, do you get time with him?
Nah, my baby mother stops that. She gets me locked up and gets all types of reports and stuff on me that's nonsense.
But
don't go to court stops me from reaching my goals. Like I was saying in 2012, I was going to school to be an EMT, and I went to court just for visitation rights, and they said they needed child support, and she agreed to it.
Okay, so you paying your child support, right?
So, and at that time, I wasn't financially stable. I was going to school to be an EMT, so I would have got a certification to finish my EMT courses, and then I'll get a job with that.
Right. So here's what I'm not understanding, my brother. If she don't let you see your child, first of all, do you have a designated time on paper from the court for when you're supposed to get your child, or do you only have visitation where you go to her house to see?
I have nothing, Dr. Umar.
All right, so we just got a first part. I'm gonna kind of just block in and out on the clip a little bit and answer, just kind of comment on some of the stuff that's being said. So when we think about it, when we're dealing with a court system, when it comes to African American men, I've experienced this where we have children and we get into situations with and we have a child or children. And, the situation doesn't work out, and then you decide to move forward. But then you're trying to, the first thing is child support, right? You're dealing with child support. So, they need the finances to take care of the child or children that you have. And first thing, you go to a court. You heard what Dr. Umar said. I think it's necessary for court in some aspects because, as he said, as you watched, he said there is times where you can't come to an agreement with the other person, the other parent. So therefore, court is necessary, especially if you're trying to do what's right and be there for the child. A lot of times we all know that when it comes to children, they're with the mothers. Right, they're with them. I would say 95% of the time they're with the mothers. So with that, we have to provide the non-custodial support, and therefore, there's not an agreement due to, we got to think, and we'll hear later in the interview, from my experiences, a lot of times when it comes to it is that, the other person, the woman, is upset, or, they're angry because how the relationship ended, and they're upset. They want to be spiteful. One way that a woman can get back at these kids, at the kids or at the father, is through the children, right? That's how it works. So, like you're going to find out, you're going to listen more, is that the children is used as a pawn or a tool to get, the dad, upset, or get him to put him in a corner, and then you threaten him with child support. They go to court, you got to deal with the mediation process. You write out a court order or agreement to see the child holidays, weekends, or, I have experienced supervised visitation where you got to be at the person's house, and watch you can see the child there, and then you might start progressing, but the system isn't set up for success for the man. And that's just what it is. Right. So going back to the individual speaking, it sounds like, he experienced in his childhood. He said a lot of, he had a lot of issues with his parents, or his mom, and his dad left, or whatever the case may be. He was treated any type of way in the system. And now he's dealing with a situation where he's in the same boat with his kid. And now the child's mother is making it difficult. He said he went to court, he tried, and, every situation is different. Not everybody is going to be the same in scenario. It's going to be similar in some ways, but it may be different for others. I'm not going to say that, this individual didn't try hard enough to get his kid. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I'm just going off what's heard. But at the end of the day, we got to also understand that this is a likelihood, for a lot of different, especially black men. I'm not saying other races don't deal with it, but from my experiences, and I'm sure anyone else watching agrees, a black man, this is what we deal with a lot of times when it comes to children. We deal with the child support system. We deal with the custody issues. We're not getting the children as much as we want to, or if we can. So with that, we have these different scenarios where we're having frustration of dealing with the child now. And I know from my personal experiences, I know, I was in the military. So a lot of times the military makes it difficult to able to see my child as I normally should because of this, where I'm stationed. And of course, if I'm not with the mother, then the child's going to be where they are and I'm going to be where I'm at. And I have to find arrangements to see my children and get them for the summers or whatever the case may be, because I'm not physically around the corner from my kids. And, that's just how it is in the military. So a lot of times for me, the military has made it a little difficult to see them. And because I'm where I'm stationed and where I'm going, and, it could affect that. So it's different. So as we continue to listen to the interview or the questions that, that he's posing, it really shows the difficulties and how much the frustration for a black man these days to get custody of their kids. And I'm not saying every scenario is like that. I'm not making excuses or whatever, but this is reality. End of the day, there's some that do try, that want to be there for their kids. And there's some obviously that they don't try. And then you can have people that don't try, get on these forums and say, hey, the child's mom did me dirty. So that's why I'm not going to be there. So I'm not, excusing none of that. But there are some cases where men try and they really put the work in to try to be there for their kids. And it's just a difficult process. And it's frustrating and it's exhausting. And sometimes we do question that whether we should continue to try in certain aspects because it's so exhausting and frustrating. And a lot of times we don't have the resources or we don't have the finances to get a good lawyer, to go to court consistently and get a court order changed and all this other good stuff. A lot of times we're in positions where we can't make that happen. So I want to just kind of touch on that first half and then we'll continue on.
Sending mail to my house for child support, and I've been trying to communicate with family members of hers, and it's just it's draining.
Okay,
I'm not a messed up individual because, like I said, I've been through it, so I don't want to do it to my own kid. But it's I don't want to go to the court system. I've been through the whole system.
But here's the thing, my brother. Listen to me. You're already in the system because she got you in for child support. So you're already in the system. You need to go and petition the court for partial custody of your son. You feel me? You're going to have to do that, my brother. Stop trying to make a way with her if she's not trying to make a way with you. I mean, I think we should try to work with the mothers of our children. But if she's made up her mind to be disagreeable with you, then you have to accept what is in front of you. Hopefully she'll change as she gets older. You have to accept what's in front of you, go to court, and put in a petition for partial physical custody and shared legal custody. Stop playing around with this, and I'm going to tell you why. Your son is 11. If the schools tries to special educate him, if they try to medicate him, you don't have any say-so in what his mother decides to let the school do with your son educationally or medically. You need shared legal right now, because he's at that age where they're going to start criminalizing him, possibly. Hopefully they never do, but it's likely. And you need to be able to show up at that school with a copy of the judge's order of shared educational and medical decisions, legal custody, and give a copy to the school and tell them y'all can't make decisions without both of us being present. And I want to know about every meeting that's held about my son. You got to get that, because it sounds like, what a lot of black women do. I went through it myself, my brother. I went through it myself. Okay, well, my daughter's mother did the same thing. They try to keep you out of the child's life for whatever reason. In my case, she wanted to get married. I didn't marry her, so she kept me out of my child's life. It's what they do. And I had legal shared custody on paper, but the courts didn't reinforce it. They never punished her when she didn't produce the child, you see. So I understand that you can get shared legal custody and they still not guarantee you time with your child. But you still need to have it on paper to prove you fought for your child, because your child is going to one day ask you, did you fight for me? And you need to pull out the paper.
Can I speak on that? I'm sorry to cut you off.
But I'm not done. Hold on. But the other thing, too, is you need that shared legal, my brother. So if the school starts trying to screw your son over, you can stop them from making decisions without you being present. You just can't keep sitting letting the clock tick, because he's a black boy. You understand? So we got to make sure you have legal say-so over the decisions made for him. Continue.
All right, so two things here with the comments that he said when the individual was speaking about him going to the court system and it didn't work out the way it's supposed to. So we gotta understand too that the courts only can do so much with custody. Again, it's like I've experienced it to where I had something in place for my children or child at the time, and the courts that the person didn't carry it out the way the court said it's supposed to. And then at that point, it was like, okay, what do I do? Do I go back to court and spend some more money trying to enforce an order, or do I just let it go? Right. In this case, he had something something together to where he was supposed to go to court and have supervised visitation or custody, and that person didn't honor it. And then what happens is he's like frustrated because you think when we go to court that the person that was there, they had the agreement that they're going to follow through what was said. And then it never does happen that way. Right. When it comes to certain aspects of, I knew a friend of mine, he had a court order written out to see his son for a certain amount of days, a certain time frame. And the person, he went down there to visit his son, and that other party did not honor their agreement. And when they did not honor their agreement, it caused he had to go back to court. And then the lawyer that he had, I guess he didn't provide the fund money or something happened, and the lawyer didn't help him anymore. So now he moved out to another place, another part of moved out of state. And now it's like, what's up with the custody agreement? So sometimes those things with the court don't always come into effect when it comes to the custody or visitation aspect. Another interesting thing about this, when you got to think about what Dr. Umar is saying in regards to the school system, having those custody agreements and visitation agreements particularly in custody is when you're dealing with the school system. So, for example, if a child acts out in school, 9 times out of 10, depending on what school the child is in, they have a referral system or documentation system to where, for example, if a child messes up in school, that principal or that teacher can document and say, hey, this student acting up in class and A, B, C, and D, and they write something called referral. They document what the child's done, and it becomes a record. And say if that child goes out of the school system and goes somewhere else, that record follows that child. So if a child has bad behavior, or if they have issues with dealing with mental health or even learning disabilities, or even somebody with special needs, or dealing with, autism. One of my children has that. So, dealing with IEP system, where we sit down and try to figure out learning styles for the child. Right. Then that documentation is followed. So it's imperative that, yes, you should have custody of your children. It's both equal parties, co-parenting, mother and father, so they can both make those decisions on a joint level and not just be the mother, having to make those decisions. And even with that, sometimes, again, it's with who's the custodial parent to make these decisions. So with that, what he was saying is to continue to have it on paper. And then from an aspect of the child itself, one day the child may say, hey, why you didn't try harder to get me custody of me, or whatever, if they have those type of questions. But this shows the frustration of the father trying to get custody to do what they need to do to be the part of the child's life. So those are some comments that I had and some of my experiences when dealing with custody issues. And it's the frustration that goes along with it is due to the fact that, again, trying to lean on the courts to solve our problems in regards to our children is something that we got to do better in, so just something I wanted to mention.
All right. So, like I said, my parents, it's like a repetitive thing for me to see and go through because my parents did the same thing. Like my mom raised me telling me that my dad wasn't a good man and whatever the case may be. So,
and that's why you can't disappear. And that's exactly why.
She basically put a perception in my mind that, my dad wasn't the guy in my life, whatever the case may be. And as I got older and I lived with my mom and I started to see the things that she did and how she lived life, and I realized that my dad just took a way out. I mean, it wasn't right, but at the same time, I don't know where he would be and what type of messed up lifestyle he would be in if he didn't sign his rights over for me. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't want to be.
Do not sign your rights away to your son, brother. He will hate you. And as a man, you can't do that. All you have to do is go to court and fight for your son. Even if, because don't get me wrong, brother, you can get.
I hated my dad. That's what I'm saying. I hated my dad until I had a conversation with him. And his conversation was more of it wasn't about fighting a court system. It was about fighting a court system and a whole family.
I understand that, but you keep.
You know what I mean? Like,
right, but.
At the end of the day, I mean, yeah.
Let me ask you a question. Well, first of all, you just gave every reason why you must fight for your son. But what I'm telling you, as someone who deals with black boys on a regular basis, and I'm hearing you, brother, and I'm sorry you got to go through that. I'm sorry you got to go through that. But this is why we as black men have to make better decisions with the women we choose to get involved in. Because there's a lot of women out here, they are abused, they've been wounded, they have not been healed. They're looking for men to solve all their problems for them. They want no responsibility for their unhappiness. And if you do not show up like a knight in shining armor, offering them a solution for all their problems, they will try to destroy you for not solving their emotional wounds. You see, so we have to do a better job of choosing the women that we decide to come into our life. Because there's a lot of good women out here. There's a lot of good women. But there's a lot of bad ones, too. There's a lot of wounded souls. There's a lot of wounded black men walking around. There's a lot of wounded black women, because this is not just a black women thing. This is not just a black men are also just as toxic and just as destructive and just as neglectful of the best interests of our children as are the women. I see it both ways, and I've been involved in situations on both sides. As a therapist, as an educator, school, I've seen it. So men and women can be toxic when it comes to co-parenting the child. But what I'm saying,
and one of the things I want to point out about this is why we need to heal. All right, this is why we need to heal. This individual speaking has experienced his father, his mother doing the same very things that he's experiencing right now. We got to understand something, and people don't want to hear this. But when we're dealing with these types of things, we got to understand there's something called generational curses. We got to understand that. You got to understand from the spiritual aspect of things that the spirits continue to manifest themselves in our children and in our generations. So what his mother has done to him by his father, he had hate for his dad until he talked to his dad and he told him the frustration of dealing with fighting for his custody and dealing with the family, the mother, and a lot of times with women, they have their mothers, their fathers, or I'll just be honest, a lot of the mothers have just the mothers, the aunts, the moms, the grandmothers, the sisters. It's the women that does, that sits in these corners. And again, I'm not bashing women. Okay. I'm just being insightful from a perspective of what I experienced and a perspective of what I see others experience. It's not to bash women and not to say that every household is like this, but this is common. If you had a couple of father figures in the home, they could probably educate the women on that. But a lot of times when we're dealing with single mothers, a lot of times their support system consists of the mothers, the aunts, the grandmothers, the siblings, the sisters, right? And a lot of times they all kind of band together and cause and say these things. I know it was like that for me. When it comes to dealing with the generational trauma, we have to do the healing. And like he said, he kind of, talked about the women's perspective, but you also got to talk about the men's perspective. On both ends, the work has to be done in the self of the person, not only the person carrying the child, but also the ones producing the child, the men and the women, basically, right? He said it. We have to make better picks. A lot of times we want to focus on big term issues in our communities, but I think this is where we need to start. We need to start with education, therapy, dealing with the hurts and wounds and the traumas of the lives of our childhoods, right? And then being able to be smart and have discernment and understanding the process of relationships, emotional trauma, emotional intelligence, relational intelligence, and educating ourselves on what is the purpose of getting into a relationship. A lot of times in the communities, the Black communities and throughout, we get into these relationships with women as men, and they have sex with these women and they get them pregnant because they want to experience or pleasure. And then when the responsibility of a child comes about, then they don't know, then it all falls apart. And then we don't think about the seed aspect. We don't think about the legacy aspect. And then we go into this whole system with the courts. We don't like the mother. We hate the mother. You know what I'm saying? Then the dad, he cheats or he does whatever he does. It causes the relationship to end. And then they don't think about the kid no more. They dip and they go on to the next person. And then the child's left, the mother's left, and the mother's having feelings and emotions of strife and bitterness and all this stuff. And then when the father tries to go back and get custody, or the court comes after them for child support, and then they's like, all right, I'm gonna try to be there. Then the mother doesn't want to do it. It's a deadly cycle all the way around. We have to be mindful of our decisions in regards to relationships, and we have to do the work and the trauma. And the trauma has to be dealt with as a Black man in order to not even get to these situations in the first place. It's one thing to be in the situation and get out of it, or get into a place where it can be beneficial or fruitful. But it's another when we can just do this in the right mindset to get into the right relationships and promote healthy relationships, healthy marriages, healthy parenting, to where we can not be in these decisions in the first place and not get in these situationships in the first place, where we have to go through these processes of keep going, having children, and then going to court and child support, broken homes, neglectful. I got to get my kids on the weekends. and bring them with my other kids over here, and then I got another female pregnant, and then it's too much, because we're not sitting back and doing the healing and understanding that our childhood, how we were raised, affects our adulthood. And I'm talking to myself because this is the stuff I had to do. I had to sit back and do the work and look at my past and the fact that I had children, and now I got to do a situation where I got to try to get all my kids together and put them in the same house, because I didn't do the very things I'm saying. Sitting back, doing the work and saying, okay, my childhood, how my parents were, how my mom was, my dad was, and sitting back and understanding these things, coming to terms and seeing how can I be better, even moving forward and making mistakes in these same things, breaking the generational curse and saying, okay, I'm going to do better. I'm going to be mindful who I pick in my relationships. I'm going to be mindful that if I'm not ready to raise kids, I'm not going to keep producing kids and having children. And if I do have children, whether it was planned or not, that I have a responsibility to take care of my children and be able to provide a home, provide some nurturing or education, or be able to support them in the proper way, and not to have them repeat the same mistakes that I have. So this is stuff we got to think about. You know what I'm saying? This is where it starts. It don't start going out there and everybody want to holler BLM, and everybody want to be Black Lives, and everybody want to be, save the black man, protect the black woman. We're all on this Will and Jada thing, but you got to understand both of them. Both of them, if we really sit back and look at both of them, their lives was full of trauma. Will said in his book, in one of his excerpts of his book, that his father used to beat on his mother. Trauma, ACEs triggers. Jada experienced her trauma in her childhood. So you got two people coming together. Money, fame, and status don't cover that up. And now they have this toxic marriage. And now they on the whole world. And now Will has did something not as honorable and less of character on one of the most dynamic award shows in history, in man history. And now he has opportunities as a black man to participate and receive an award. And his trauma has overshadowed what his success was, right? Because of the very things that we're not doing the therapy, and we're not sitting back and looking at ourselves as black men and black women and trying to understand, hey, this is an issue. This is an issue. My childhood was an issue. And now I have children, and now I got to go through these issues with the court system. And then we want to be able to say, you know what, this is hard. So I just my two pieces on it.
Sounds like you still want a relationship with your son's mother. Now, I want you to be honest with me. I want you to be honest with me.
I want a relationship with my son, but I don't want to be like that. I don't want to curb. I don't want to be fucked up, basically.
I understand that, but
now mentally, I tried it, bro. She locked me up for no reason, and I went back and had this. If I wanted to see my kids,
why did you get locked up? Why did you get locked up? Tell me what happened. They put handcuffs on you specifically for doing what?
Street for my baby moms, and I used to try to see her and interact with her. Like you said, don't try to push that onto her, but if she's not ready. So I'm not a court going person. I'm a street nigga. Sorry to say it like that. I'm a street nigga. I work now, but back then I was in the street, so it wasn't a given that I'm going to court for my kids, for myself, nothing. So I was trying to communicate with her. Basically, she called the police and told them that I had a knife and said I was going to put in all this other stuff when I had drugs on me. So when the police pulled me over, I got locked up for drugs and assault against my baby mom. That never happened. When I asked, just could I talk to you from across the street? But my thing is, she told me when I came home, if you want to see your son, you have to come sit in my house. I did that by all means.
Okay, I did it. Okay, I understand that. I did it too, okay? I went and used to go sit.
I don't think you wanted to be with your baby mom, though. I think it was more of your kid less than your baby mom.
I agree, but the difference... Right, but the difference, though, between me and you is that it seems like you still want this confrontation with the mother when you can just deal with the...
I get it. Nah, listen, Dr. Umar, I understand totally what you're saying. I don't want no type of confrontation. My son is 11. He's able to talk and communicate with me and you in two different conversations. I don't need you. What I need is your acceptance because your family is not going to do that. So, okay, cool, you're not going to give me it, I'll go to court. But if I'm going to court and they're taking pay, like I haven't seen my kid, like in maybe 4 years, 5 years. Like, so, but it's a whole thing, like it's a whole bunch of pain and turmoil that she did to me and put me through that. It wouldn't just be able to put on the phone. But my thing is, I just don't want to be the fucked up dad. Like, because I felt like my dad was fucked up, but in all reality, he had to think about himself. You feel me? So I want to do the same, knowing that the right way of life is to take care of my child and support my child and do what I can. But when I did it, and I tried to make it work at a certain length and at my willpower, it didn't work for you. So now that I'm at a point in space where it's like, all right, fuck y'all, fuck you, fuck the kid. Like, that's just...
Oh, man, don't say F your kid, Mom. No, brother, no.
The part I wanted to get to, so it was a lot said here. You can tell if you're watching, I know it's not the best picture captured of the video, but Dr. Umar, you can see his facial expression as he's talking. I guess he's feeling, he can understand. And the one thing about is when he said he had to go sit in somebody's house, I personally experienced that, where I had to go and do supervised visitation. And I don't understand what that is. I don't know if that's a court thing where they treat it. To me, when I think of supervised visitation, I feel like I'm a criminal. I feel like I have to be watched just to see my daughter at the time when it happened. Right? I feel like I had to been watched because it was like I was a criminal. I should have to come to your house and sit there just to watch my daughter and talk to her. I'm not cool with the baby mom. Right. So now I got to not only be castrated or you can say emasculated in that aspect to where I got to sit outside the porch and just to see my daughter. So you can keep eyes on me like I did something to my daughter. So when they both said that they had to do that, to go to the house to sit there and watch my daughters or my sons or their sons, that's a painful process. I wonder, is that something the court does because out of fear the mother made that, or that's something that's automatically generated because they both said they had to do supervised visitation. Going back to, in that case with the individual, I guess he got locked up because he was out in the streets living that lifestyle and got caught up, and that's probably why he got supervised visitation. I don't understand how Dr. Umar had to do it, and I know I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do any types of crimes to her or the child. So I didn't understand why I had to be on supervised visitation. So I don't know. That's an interesting thing in the system. And I probably want to look into that more to see why does a black man get supervised visitation from a court system for his own child. I should be able to take my child anytime I want. I should be able to take her on the designated times and not have to sit at your house unless it's convenient. Just to talk to my daughter or talk to my son or talk to your son or whatever the case may be. So that's interesting with that. But also, we got to understand the lifestyles we're living. As a man, it goes back to trauma and healing. We got to understand that we have to heal and get out of the lifestyles of living a certain type of way. If we are street dude, that's not promotable. That's not fit for duty for a father. If you're out there doing drugs and running and doing that stuff out there with guns and stuff like that, that's not suitable living for a child. So in that aspect, we got to be smart in how we live our lives. We got to educate ourselves. This goes back to the beginning of healing and putting ourselves in position where we can be a presence and be suitable to have a child. So if I get custody, I got a place for them to live. I'm making money. I'm taking care of my business. I'm stable in order to have my children or have your whatever case may be with the kids. But when you're out there living a certain type of lifestyle that doesn't sit well with a judge, and at some point they don't sit well with the mother, and if they're spiteful and they're in their feelings, they can use that against you to say he not stable to be suitable for being a father. So with that, we got to be smart as men to understand why are we getting to the situation we get into. If we know we're not ready to have a child and bring him to this world, we shouldn't be out here living a certain type of way. Then we need to be mindful of that when we're participating in I was just going to say grown man activities, sex, right? The part when he said about F the kid, this is probably the most important part of this whole video, because this is where I'm trying to tell people that when you trying, whether you're doing street dude, regular dude, you blue collar, you CEO, whatever the case may be, and you're dealing with this is the part where he said what he said. And I capture that because it gets frustrating. And when you're trying to do what's right, you go to court, you're trying to do what's right, and it doesn't work out in your favor. If that's the case, then you have feelings of walking away. And a lot of times when we feel like especially black men, they walk away from their kids that they don't want to be there. But a lot of times when it comes to black men, when they walk away from their kids, it's because of the frustration of dealing with the courts and dealing with the mother and the family. As he said when he was talking to Dr. Umar, he said he wanted his family to try to give him the acceptance to say, hey, I got a son and I want to be there for him. Talk to your daughter, your niece, your granddaughter, whatever the case, role that the family played in with this individual, and say, hey, I want to be a part of this life, of my son's life. And I guess the family didn't back him up, and along with her, made it extremely difficult. And then now he's frustrated. He's willing to say, you know what, forget it. Forget trying. And again, I don't promote that. And I've been in situations where it's been so stressful and so draining and demoralizing that I actually for a period of time walked away. I was in the military. I left. I went to overseas duty station, and I still continue to talk when I could talk. But I had to get a mindset of saying, you know what, I don't have time for this. And even when as the child grows, right, and you're still trying to do certain things, and you're trying to be a part, you have these plans and you have these goals, and you want to get your child groomed a certain way, and you're getting rejection and you're getting bypassed, it really becomes a point where you say, you know what, why I'm here? Because at the end of the day, think about it. As a man, it's easy to go out here and start over. If the mother, I always say, is the mother, they have the kids easy to say, you know what, I'm gone. I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start over. I'm going to find another woman. I'm going to do the same thing. And then that don't work out. Then I'm gone. It's like the song called Papa Was a Rolling Stone. He laid whatever his head, he laid his head at his home. So he go to another woman's house. I'm going to knock her up. Oh, she tripping. I'm gone. Next one. And that's the mindset that a lot of black men have. And I'm sure other men do too, but we focusing on black men. And this is where the problem comes in. This is where one of the major roots of the problem in our community is dealing with our children, dealing with our parental, our parental guidance. You want to call it that. This is where it starts. This is, instead of let's talking about major issues that we can't fix, let's control what we can. We can control what we can do in our households. We can control the type of women we lay up with. We can control ourselves, and we're getting healed and knowing, okay, I'm gonna have a standard to know what type of woman that I'm going to marry. The woman I'm going to lay up with. I'm going to lay up with this woman. It's going to be commitment. It's going to be faithful. I'm going to stick by this woman. We both going to be healed. We're both going to raise our children in the best manner. But a lot of times what black men do, we go out here. We're not thinking about that. She looks good. We go back to the physical. We get into bed with her. We do what we do. And then she's pregnant. And then she wants marriage. Now, Dr. Umar, he said he didn't want to marry the chick. We don't know why. I have a situation like that too. And it wasn't because I didn't want to deal with her. It's just that the relationship, it was toxic. It wasn't something I wanted to be in. So all these things, same thing happens where we get into relationships and we don't make the full commitment. And then we're gone. And then it's child support. And then it's custody issues. Me learning this, I had to understand that I had to make the better decisions when it comes to the women I deal with. Fortunately enough, I'm good now. But I made a lot of mistakes growing up because of the very same things this individual is experiencing. And we have to be, as black men, tackle this root issue of dealing with relationships and dealing with our children, because a lot of times the children's going to repeat what we do, daughters and sons. You know what I'm saying? So I did a teaching on called Parenting, and I talked about some of these similar things in regards to having these emotions where, like, man, it's like, you know, you go to court, you do what's right, you try, and nothing's working out. And then, you know what? I'm done. I'm freaking done. Right. Because I've spent so much time trying to, be there for the children. And in some aspects, it just gets tough. So what do? You know, of course, we can go to societal views and sit here and say, should I quit? You know what I'm saying? Should I walk away? And then if we do that, then we're judged too, because then we're deadbeats. We're sorry fathers. We're lame. We're whatever. Society judges us because we walk away. But a lot of people don't understand too that they don't understand the inside layers of what's really going on. So my encouragement to men, black men, is to learn to control what you can. Something Dr. Umar said, I'm not going to play the rest of the video because it can get real lengthy. But when he said it's about the quality, not the quantity. It's about the quality, not the quantity. He said it's more effective if you spend that one day with a child that's quality, full attention, full, spending that day than having them for 4 or 5 days a week and they're getting dropped off with their parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, or they're too busy doing other things. Even I learned something from that when I have my children, I'm going to try to focus on the quantity, not the quality. You know what I'm saying? The other way around. Quality versus quantity, right? It's about me spending the quality time, learning them, educating them, talking to them, helping them with their mental health, doing things with them, and really being there for my children in the proper way and really pouring into them in the proper way and loving them the proper way as well. So when that quality is more measured than the quantity, right? So that's what I would say too. It's about the quality. To control, you can control what you do with your kids when you have them. When you do have them, make the best of it, right? But you also got to learn as a man too, that when you don't have them, you can still talk to them or whatever, how the situation works out. But you got to be able to move that over. You can't control what the other parent does. In some aspects, if even with custody, there are certain, when the other parent has them, they're going to do things their way. And what I found doing when I was doing that is I'm trying to control every single narrative of what the mother does with the children. And it's like, I'm not there because I'm halfway across the world, across the country, or wherever I'm at. So when you have them, you just give them the best version that you can give them. Take time to heal. Take time to make better decisions. That's one of the things I learned throughout this process, is making better choices with the women that you cannot, as I said in many of my videos, you cannot go off someone's physical looks alone. You cannot go off the hormones and the lust and all these things with a woman, because you do not know how they think. You don't know how they are when it comes to their mindsets. And you get into these entanglements with these women sexually, and you have a child, and then you stuck with that situationship, or you're not stuck because you can actually leave. And then when you see your child one day and it's been 18, 20 years later, and that child's mad and it's pissed off at you because you never took the time to try, I guarantee you, I know it does it for me. And no matter how hard a man is, at the end of the day, if their seed that they made comes to them and they're successful, and they somehow became, or even if they're not successful, if the child comes back to the parent and they never took a chance to try and make an attempt, and they come back to them and say, you ain't do nothing, you're trash, I guarantee you as a man, you're going to feel some type of way. You can say, I don't care all you want to. You can flex your shoulders. You can say, it don't matter to me. Why? Because you're still dealing with trauma. But as a healed man, you're going to feel some type of way because you didn't take the attempt. And it's better to try and fail at this point than to not try at all. But what I've learned is to do my best when I have my children, to try to make an attempt. But at the same time, you got to have a balance to say, you know what? I did all I could, because it can be stressful. If you want to be with your kids and it's always roadblocks, it become frustrating. You get mad. You want to quit. And I always said in my last video a while back, I said, don't quit. But now dealing with this, it's like I'm still saying the same thing, but you got to have balances now. You got to have boundaries. Say, okay, I can't do nothing about certain things, so I'm not going to stress about it. I do what I can. And ultimately, at the end of the day, the situation is going to be as good as it's going to get. Because when we operate outside the will of God and we don't do things correctly, you can't expect perfection. Even when you do things correctly, you may still have some issues, but it's an ideal situation when you find a woman that you're supposed to be with, you be faithful to her, and you love her correctly, and you have children, and just two parents in the household. That's the most ideal situation you can have. It's not going to be a perfect situation, but it's ideal. But when you outside having multiple kids with multiple different women, it's not going to be ideal. It's going to be some issues. So even with that, when the child grows up and they make bad decisions because you weren't around or you was there part-time or whatever the case may be, you just have to continue to keep trying to be there for them. You have to continue to try to keep loving them and supporting them. But there has to be a balance as a man to know when to say, you know what, I did the best I could with the situation at hand. I went to court. I tried. It didn't work out. The judge was unfair. The mama won, whatever the case may be. And you have to do what you can. And rest of you have to give it to God and say, Lord, I did the best that I could. And now I'll ask you, Lord, to help the situation. That's what I'm learning. Because it's like, in a sense, I'm going to walk away and say, I'm done with this. And I know I can't because I'm responsible in some aspects, at least try. But then in the day, I don't want to be so stressed out and worrisome about it that I can't function day to day, or I can't do what I need to do because I'm so stressed out about these children. Right. So I have to have a strict balance on knowing what I can control and what I can't. And on top of that, doing the healing and doing the work and saying, you know what, I need to work on myself and heal and become the man I need to be. So when my kids are here, I can be the best version of myself to them. So that's kind of the gist I want to talk about in our communities as Black men. We have to do better with picking our choices. And if we even fail to pick our choices and we get into situationships such as these, we still need to be responsible, be the best version of ourselves. Having balance, knowing what we can control. We go to court, we do our best. If we get supervised visitation, much as it sucks, we need to just, be there. It's about the child at that point. It ain't about me. It ain't about dealing with the mother. You know what I'm saying? It's about getting that supervised visitation and keep going back to court if you need to. Go back to court. I did my supervised visitation. I ended up moving up to weekends. I ended up moving up. Unfortunately, that's how the system is designed, right? And unless you have a good lawyer and you have a really good lawyer that knows what they're doing, 9 times out of 10, a lot of these guys, they settle for it. And then a lot of times they get in their pride and feelings and say, no, I don't need this. Why I got to go to supervised visitation? Because that's how I felt. But I had to think about the child. I had to think about my daughter. I couldn't just think about me. So I went ahead and sucked it up and did the supervised visitation. I didn't want to deal with the mother, but I had to do it. Right. And then weekends. And then, it's other situationships that took place with that. That still is, I feel like it's unfair to me. But I learned to make peace with what I could do and try to do my best when I get a chance to speak with my daughter or interact with her or spend time with her. So in that case, you have to make the situation the best you can make it while you have it. Right. So that's just examples or multiple examples of ways you can deal with these types of things. And we got to do better in our communities. This is one of the root issues. We can talk about all this other stuff. We can go all down these other lanes and trying to fix our Black people. But I think one of the biggest issues is dealing with the home, dealing with the generations, dealing with our communities. This is how we build good communities. Because if we have fathers and we have father figures and we have people that can stay strong and rear our children, Black men, Black boys and girls, we can build a good community. We can build our community in education and in spirit and in truth and in our abilities to communicate and build businesses and build send people to school and change lives and change our communities. It starts with this very principle. How are we dealing with our parenting? So I just hope this helps. I know it's a little jumbled or whatever with these clips and stuff, but my whole intent of the day is to talk about how do we deal with our parenting as Black men and women in our communities. And again, if you have comments and you have suggestions on how Black men can move forward and deal with the court system or how to deal with being better parents or dealing with the emotional and relational intelligence in regards to relationships, by all means, leave in the comments below. Give me your opinions on how can Black men do better in the home. How do we do better with the court system? Because the court system, it is jacked and it doesn't help with Black men specifically. But how can it help in the sense of giving rights and custody to our Black men with our children, especially for sons and daughters? And how can Black women can get the help they need to support? But it takes education. It takes ability to be amicable. And being able to say, you know what, and men to step up to the plate and say, hey, all right, cool. I'm going to go ahead and work with you on this. But a lot of times it doesn't happen because a lot of feelings are still in the way. Or the man don't want to be with the woman, or the woman's mad because this man moved on to another woman or whatever. Regardless, it's about the kids. So leave comments below. Hope I can get something else next time to put up on here. Share, subscribe, and continue to be blessed. Y'all have a good day.